The sun filtered softly through the pine canopy, painting shifting shadows across the narrow dirt trail. Leia hummed to herself, a woven basket tucked under her arm, already half filled with wild thistle root, dewleaf, and blue flower petals. Her boots were still damp from crossing the morning stream, and her fingers were stained green from collecting herbs her grandmother swore cured everything from a fever to heartbreak. The forest here, just beyond Ember Grove's outer perimeter, was safe. At least it used to be. It had been years since anyone worried about wild animals, and the Peace Vigil rarely patrolled this deep. Even the drones avoided the tangled thickets that clawed at the metal like hungry vines. Leia heard the buzzing before she saw them. 3 hover bikes coasted down the narrow pass with mechanical whines, scattering birds into the trees. They hovered a few feet off the ground, sleek, silver, and marked with the crimson insignia of the Galactic Peace Vigil. The riders wore reflective visors and black polymer armor, their elongated rifles magnet-locked across their backs. She froze. Her heart climbed. The lead bike slowed. The patrol dismounted in unison, boots crunching over the dry needles. Their leader, a tall insectoid officer with a segmented exoskeleton, gestured sharply. "You! Civilian! Identification, now!" He barked in standard Galactic, his voice a mix of static and hiss. I don't have it," Leia stammered, stepping back. "I left it at home, I was just..." "Failure to produce documentation within Compliance Zone 73 results in enforcement protocol," the insectoid said without a hint of emotion. "I live in Ember Grove," she said quickly. "I've come here for herbs. I'm not a threat." The officer raised his plasma pistol. There was no warning. A single bolt cracked through the air, flashing blue as it hit her squarely in the chest. Her body jerked. The basket slipped from her hands, spilling petals across the forest floor. Then she dropped, limp, eyes wide, a red hole smoldering beneath her collarbone. Silence returned. The insectoid holstered his weapon. "Non-compliant," he muttered. None of the 3 even looked twice as they mounted their bikes and vanished through the trees. Up the ridge, Darius Wren had been watching. Cloaked in a drab brown hood, he remained motionless beneath a weathered pine. His breathing didn't change, his pulse didn't spike. But something old stirred. He didn't know the girl. Had never spoken to her. But he'd seen her in town, carrying that same basket, always smiling, always polite. She couldn't have been more than 17. Darius waited a full minute after the patrol vanished before moving. He descended silently, like a shadow uncoiling. His boots made no sound on the mossy earth. The forest felt colder now, as if it, too, had recoiled from the violence. He knelt beside the girl. The wound still hissed faintly. Her eyes stared skyward, lifeless, lips parted mid-breath. He gently closed her eyelids, his calloused hand shaking slightly. "You shouldn't have been out here alone," he said softly, though he wasn't sure why. She couldn't hear him. But the forest could. The ghost could. His cabin was 2 miles west, hidden in the folds of the hillside, surrounded by tall grass and forgotten roots. Built by his own hands, it had no tech, no comms, no trace. Just quiet. That had been the goal. Retirement from the galaxy, from death, from the kind of missions where he was the last face people saw. But now, as he entered, he no longer felt the peace that had held this place together. He moved to the fireplace. The stone was ash-gray, covered with dust and cobwebs. He reached for the poker, but instead of stoking coals, he pressed it into a small groove on the floorboard. Click! The slab of stone shifted. Beneath it lay a rusted iron case. He hadn't touched it in 5 years. He opened it now. Inside, a matte black pulse revolver, a combat knife with a worn grip, an ID tag marked Wren Darius, Strike Unit Hound, and a rolled-up cloth. He unwrapped it slowly, revealing a pendant in the shape of Earth's old Terran eagle. The chain was broken. The symbol scorched. He sat there, staring. For 5 years, he had waited to die in silence. But they'd brought the war back. And they'd made a mistake. They killed a child. By nightfall, the town of Embergrove buzzed with unease. Lights flickered in windows. Doors stayed shut. Mothers wept behind drawn curtains. No one protested. No one shouted. Fear had long since choked rebellion from these settlers. Mayor Harvin stood outside the community hall, his eyes red. He hadn't even been allowed to recover the girl's body. Violation of jurisdiction, they said. The peace vigil had already torched the spot where she died, erasing evidence with efficient fire. They say she resisted, someone whispered. Lies, said another. But no one dared louder. Behind the hall, in the alley between the feed shop and the repair station, Darius found a pair of boys loitering with slouched shoulders and haunted eyes. She was our friend, one of them said when Darius approached. I know, Darius replied. That's why I need your help. 3 hours later, the Peace Vigil patrol post near Ridgepoint Valley went dark. Inside, 2 alien guards lay dead, clean shots to the neck and heart, the scent of carbonized armor lingering in the air. A third guard stumbled from the shadows, weapon raised, only to find a note pinned to the wall behind him. Return her body. Or I return for yours. No one saw who left it. But the whisper spread like wildfire across the colony. The hooded man had come down the hill, and the stars would bleed. Night dropped over Embergrove like a wool blanket, thick, heavy, muffling the breath of the town. Few dared leave their homes. Those who did moved quickly, heads down, avoiding the gaze of peace vigil drones that hovered in slow loops above the rooftops. The girl's death had lit no fires in the streets, sparked no chants or protests. Only silence. Fear had roots here, and it grew deep. But something else was stirring now. A wind from the hills, colder than the season warranted. Darius Wren walked among shadows. His hood drawn low, gait steady but unhurried, he passed the edge of town unnoticed. The visor masks of peace vigil patrols had a blind spot, one Darius knew well. He stayed within it, slipping between alleys, never staying in the open for more than a breath. He moved with purpose, not rage. Emotion gets you killed, his instructors once said. Precision doesn't. He paused behind the old tannery, peeling back a rusted grate covering an air shaft. Inside, he found a bag he'd stashed long ago, spare rounds, a data pad loaded with schematics of the patrol base, and a set of encoded patches. Tools from another life. The last time he'd used them, he was taking down warlords in the Tarsus clusters. Tonight, it was his own planet. The patrol station sat just outside the central plaza, a reinforced prefab tower with pulse sensor trip lines and a single rotating turret perched on its roof like a lazy hawk. The walls were steel gray, featureless except for the red insignia of the Concorde. 3 guards on rotation. Darius knew their timing. He'd studied them all week, even before the girl was shot. Not because he planned anything. He just never stopped observing. Old habits didn't die. They waited. Inside the station, Private Krellick scratched at his helmet and yawned. Another skin sweep? He groaned. Orders, replied his partner, a bipedal creature with gleaming black skin and 4 glowing eyes. The local beasts are getting bold. Humans, not beasts, Krellick muttered. Same thing. They didn't see the third guard slump silently to the ground behind them. Darius lowered the body carefully, then moved toward the rear hall. The walls were quiet metal. No alarms yet. He walked like a whisper, counting his steps, every inch familiar from the station's blueprint burned into memory. He reached the command room. Inside, an alien lieutenant hunched over a screen, reviewing security feeds. Darius knocked 3 soft raps on the steel doorframe. The lieutenant turned just in time to see the barrel of a silenced slug pistol. Pfft. He collapsed without a word. Darius didn't linger. He accessed the station's logs and located the girl's incident report. It had been tagged as minor disturbance resolved. There was no mention of her name. No image. No ID. Erased. He copied the file to his pad. Then he triggered a timed breach on the backup power circuit and left a message on the central monitor, typed in brutal block letters. I see you. Before he exited, he left a body propped in a chair, the commander from the earlier patrol, throat slit clean. In the corpse's cold fingers, he placed a blue flower from Leia's spilled basket. At dawn, Embergrove woke to a siren that hadn't wailed in years. Shirek Vota, the Peace Vigil Enforcer General, arrived at the outpost within the hour. He wore ceremonial armor, sharp angles, polished to an obsidian sheen, and towered over the human officers lined up at attention. "Explain," he growled. The lieutenant, pale and shaking, gestured to the screen. The footage played back Darius's message, then cut to static. The local commander's death had not gone unnoticed. The mark left behind, a tiny earth pendant carved into the flesh of the dead officer's wrist, meant only one thing. Shirek snarled. "Who did this?" "Locals whisper about someone from the mountains," one officer replied. "They call him the Hooded Man." "A myth," Shirek snapped. "A primitive story." "Perhaps," the officer said, eyes lowered. "But the body count is real." At the general store, folks whispered behind crates of protein packs. "He killed them clean," murmured old Harwin, the blacksmith. "No mess, no noise. Left a message, too." "Think it's him?" asked Mara, the baker's daughter. "It's him," said Harwin. "Darius Wren's back." "Why now?" Harwin didn't answer. He didn't need to. They all knew. In a rundown shack on the town's far edge, Darius cleaned his gear. The pistol lay dismantled on the table, its parts scrubbed with methodical care. He'd removed the fingerprints, erased any trace. This was muscle memory, performed so many times it was like prayer. A knock at the door. He stiffened, then drew his knife. "It's me," came a voice, male, steady, young. He opened the door to find Jas, a boy of maybe 20, wearing his older brother's jacket and nerves too big for his frame. "I want to help," Jas said. "No. You need someone who knows the streets. I've lived here my whole life." Darius shook his head. Jas tried again. "She was my cousin." Darius didn't speak. Instead, he handed Jas a map with marks in red. "Learn these routes. No questions. Come back tomorrow night." Jas nodded, eyes burning. "Yes, sir." Far above, in orbit, a transmission pulsed across the Concord relay channel. Encrypted. Priority level 6. Unauthorized violence on Settlement 42G. Agent Wren designation suspected. Potential breach of Concord pacification order. Recommend immediate escalation. Across the stars, someone read that message and frowned. Because if Darius Wren was truly back, this wasn't justice. It was war. The Peace Vigil called them precision reinforcers. Locals called them death in armor. A sleek lander broke atmosphere over Embergrove before sunrise, its hull matte black, unmarked. It didn't request clearance. It didn't need to. When it touched down outside the colony, dust flared in all directions, scattering farmers and mourning traders like frightened birds. The ramp hissed open. 6 emerged. Tall. Silent. No insignias. Their faces hidden behind reflective masks shaped like skulls. Each carried an overcharged pulse carbine, military grade, not regulation. Shirek Vota waited at the landing site, claws folded behind his back. "They're human," he sneered to the team's handler. "Use restraint. Keep them breathing." The handler didn't reply. Just handed him a tablet containing the brief. Target, Darius Wren. Status, Rogue Operative, Earth Division Hound. Threat level, critical. Engagement protocol, terminate with tactical discretion. Darius moved like he knew time was running out. He'd been hitting targets all week, comm relays, drone bunkers, supply shipments. Nothing lethal. Not yet. He wanted the Peace Vigil nervous. He wanted them watching everything but the right thing. Tonight would change that. Inside the storm-drained tunnel beneath Ridgepoint Highway, he knelt by a crate half buried in rock. It had taken him 2 hours to dig it free. Inside was a stripped-down pulse detonator, an ancient hacking rig, and a medallion engraved with the Earth Navy emblem, broken in half. He pocketed the medallion. Footsteps echoed. He didn't flinch. Joss arrived, hunched under a pack stuffed with wires and tagged beacons. "You're late," Darius said. "There were patrols near the bakery," Joss replied. "I doubled back twice. You learn fast." "I don't want to die." Darius looked at him. "Then stay sharp. No room for mistakes now." He unrolled a map across the tunnel floor. Red markers surrounded the Peace Vigil's central relay hub, a squat fortress of steel nestled in a rock basin west of town. "We cut this relay," he said, tapping the schematic, "and they lose contact with orbit. Eyes blind. Ears deaf. It'll take them hours to reroute." Joss stared at the drawing. "And the team they dropped in today? They won't be waiting for orders." Nightfall. The relay hub buzzed with activity. Guards paced the walls, drones circling in erratic patterns, their spotlights slicing through the dark like blades. But the reinforcers weren't watching the gates. They hunted the forest now, tracking heat signatures, running scans, setting traps. They were professionals. Efficient. Cold. But they weren't him. 3 of them moved silently through the pines, triangulating a signal. One paused. There it was, a human outline on infrared. Standing still. Rifle lowered. The lead reinforced operative raised his weapon. "Target acquired." He fired. The body dropped. The operatives approached fast, weapons trained, until they saw the severed comm beacon in the figure's hand. A dummy. Weighted with rocks. No blood. Just a message scrawled on a slate hung around its neck. "You brought 6. I'll return 6. The second died before he could turn. Darius dropped from a branch above, blade already cutting through air. A sharp crack, trachea crushed. The body fell sideways, twitching once. The third fired. Too slow. Darius rolled, flung a flash-burst grenade, then fired twice. Both shots found neck seams, under the helmet. All 3 were down. Back at the hub, the reinforcer handler watched his squad blip off the tactical grid. He stiffened. Zone Bravo lost. Reposition all units. Inside the hub, 2 officers watched their monitors flicker. Then die. Static. Then a single message flooded the screen. Death tallied. More to come. Then darkness. Darius and Joss moved quickly through the blind zone. The jammers were working. They reached the outer fence. Darius clipped a power line with a suppression unit. The barrier shimmered, then flickered out. They slid through the gap. Joss held his breath the entire way. They reached the server block, a cube of dense black metal humming with faint blue light. Darius plugged in the rig. It whirred to life, siphoning the command logs. "Why not just blow it up?" Joss whispered. "Proof," Darius said. "What kind of proof?" He glanced at the boy. "That she existed." Inside the logs, the girl's ID was there. Redacted by field command. Labeled as a threat under Non-Compliance Clause 7. Her age 16. Risk level negligible. Threat tags none. "Cowards," Darius muttered. He downloaded the entire database. Then he set charges. As they left, he handed Joss a data chip. "Deliver this to Talia Harvin. The mayor's daughter? She runs the relay to the outer colonies." Joss nodded, then froze. A figure stood on the hill above the basin. One of the reinforcers. Helmet reflecting starlight. Carbine aimed. "Run," Darius said. "What about?" "Now." The reinforcer fired. Darius returned 2 shots, one high, one low. Both missed. On purpose. He needed the attention on him. He bolted toward the cliff ridge, drawing the fire away. Joss ran the opposite direction, clutching the chip. Darius reached the ridge. The reinforcer followed, silent, methodical, unrelenting. They met at the edge. No more cover. The alien raised his weapon. Darius dropped low, kicked forward, twisted the rifle from his grip, and smashed the stock into the visor. Cracks spidered across the mask. The reinforcer staggered. Darius didn't let up. One strike to the throat. Another to the knee. Then the knife. Clean. Fast. Brutal. He left the body at the edge, dangling above the drop. That made 5. Far away, in a hidden corner of her father's office, Talia Harvin inserted the chip. Footage played, the execution. The logs. The erasure. She stared at the screen, fists clenched. We trusted them, she whispered. Then she turned and activated the old colony broadcast relay. Her voice rang out across a dozen settlements. They erased her. But we remember. Her name was Leia, and they killed her. The galaxy may forget. We won't. Somewhere in the hills, Darius smiled faintly. One more name added to the ledger. And he wasn't done yet. The broadcast rippled like a stone tossed into still water. Within hours, colony channels buzzed with encrypted messages, raw footage, and whispers of revolt. Towns miles apart, once silenced by fear, began speaking Leia's name. The Concord issued an immediate gag order. Too late. By the time Shirek Votal learned of the breach, Talia's voice had already reached 13 human settlements and sparked unrest in 4. She weaponized sentiment. Shirek growled, talons tapping against the steel table in the war room. Emotion always poisons logic. The handler of the reinforcer squad didn't respond. His remaining operatives stood like statues behind him. We need orbital suppression, Shirek snapped. They've crossed the line. The handler finally spoke. Protocol restricts that without High Council approval. I am the law on this planet. Not above the accord. Shirek's mandibles clicked once. A tight, controlled sound of disdain. Then I'll burn them the slow way. In Embergrove, the peace vigil began locking doors that weren't theirs to close. Homes were searched. Civilians interrogated. Fields set ablaze as a warning. They labeled it containment. Locals called it revenge. And in that thickening air of tension, something began to shift. The people stopped hiding. They didn't march or shout. They didn't riot. They helped. Joss found new hands, young and old, willing to carry crates, move signals, hide gear. An old technician fixed jamming nodes from a forgotten era. A mechanic welded armor plates onto scrap haulers. Even children acted as lookouts, eyes sharp from rooftops. Darius never asked. They volunteered. From the hills, Darius watched it all unfold through a pair of dusty binoculars. The town wasn't just afraid anymore. It was angry. And anger moved people. He turned to Mara, crouched beside him in a calm's nest made of pine boughs and camouflage netting. She'd been a baker's daughter. Now she ran message relays through encrypted bounce codes. We're almost ready, she whispered. Not yet, Darius said. Why wait? Because they still think this is isolated. A manhunt. I want them looking for me while the real fire spreads. Mara studied him a moment. You ever smile? He didn't answer. But he gave her a flash drive. Play this when I give the signal. That night, 2 more vigil outposts fell. No explosives. No blood. Just sabotage. Power grids crashed. Armories emptied. Drones rerouted to loop false data. It was surgical. Quiet. Effective. The people weren't running anymore. They were preparing. Shirek stood on the command deck, watching satellite feeds blink offline. Dots on the map vanished. He didn't speak. Didn't shout. Instead, he turned to his handler. You said Ren was one man. He is, the handler replied calmly. Shirek's voice was low. Then how is one man making an army? He isn't. The handler's eyes narrowed. He's reminding humans of who they were before they feared us. Dawn broke red. Darius stood at the base of the old mining ridge, facing a group of 20 locals, farmers, techs, scavengers. Each wore a patch on their shoulder, a white slash over a black field. The mark of the fallen. No one fights if they can't commit, he said. This won't be clean. You won't all make it back. No one moved. Those who want out walk now. Still, no movement. He gave a nod. Then listen carefully. He pointed to a map spread across a flat rock. Peace Vigil HQ is here. Reinforced walls. Automated defenses. We hit them at comms and their gate generator. When that drops, we move in. Quick. Loud. No hesitation. He tapped twice. They'll expect a frontal push. That's what we give them. Wait, Joss said. That's suicide. It is, Darius replied. For me. 2 hours later, the broadcast played. Mara stood in the square, speaking to every town and colony within the range of their hijacked relays. This isn't about one girl. Or one man. This is about them killing us in silence. Erasing our names. Our children. And pretending they kept the peace. No more. Tonight, we take back the right to be remembered. If they want war, we'll show them humanity remembers how to fight. People didn't cheer. They loaded weapons. They sealed flak vests. They kissed their children and walked out into the red morning. Darius approached the Peace Vigil gates alone. A single man. No army behind him. Just a long coat, boots, and something cold in his eyes. He raised his hands. I surrender. The guards moved quickly, weapons drawn. The gate opened. As soon as it did, Joss triggered the beacon. On every relay frequency, across every screen, Darius's voice rang out from an old recording. You brought war to a farmer's daughter. I'm just delivering the return package. Boom. The gate erupted in flame. Power arcs shattered turrets. Drones shorted midair. The first squad behind the walls collapsed in a hail of shrapnel. And through the smoke, they came. Dozens of them. Rebels, colonists, miners turned warriors. Not trained soldiers, but guided by one. Darius led the charge, silent and deadly. His pistol barked once, twice, each shot ending a threat before it became one. He moved like water through broken stone. Behind him, Joss covered flanks with scavenged rifles. Talia rerouted turret fire using hacked access. Even Mara charged in with a shock blade she could barely hold steady, but stabbed true. The HQ fell in 17 minutes. 17 brutal, irreversible minutes. When the dust cleared, Shirek was gone. His shuttle had launched minutes before the breach, abandoning his command. They found his quarters empty, only a single broken datapad on the floor, its screen cracked. On it, one message remained, burned into the glass by Ren's data spike. You ran. We won't. Far across the sector, aboard a Concord Tribunal vessel, a diplomat reviewed the footage in silence. He turned to the other council members. We have a problem. Another rebellion? One asked. No, he said grimly. We have a symbol. Shirek Vota paced inside his orbital command ship, each step echoing through the silent steel hall. The lights were dimmed, not for ambience, but because half the systems had been rerouted to jam colony-wide transmissions. It didn't matter. The signal had already spread. The footage. The names. The faces of the fallen. Darius Ren's message had gone viral across 12 sectors. The Peace Vigil wasn't feared anymore. It was mocked. And Shirek knew the final blow hadn't landed yet. He stopped in front of the central display, watching the loop play again. You ran. We won't. His mandibles clenched. Deploy orbital fire. Wipe Embergrove off the surface. Denied. The Concord liaison said flatly over comms. You had one job. Keep the frontier quiet. Shirek stepped forward. They killed 28 enforcers. My command post. My officers. You gave them a martyr. Now you've made him a legend. I'll kill the legend. Too late. He's not in your sector anymore. Darius Ren wasn't hiding. He stood atop a ridge overlooking the valley, the smoking ruins of the Peace Vigil base behind him. His coat was torn, a long gash ran down his arm, and soot darkened the edges of his face. But his eyes were sharp. Clear. Mara climbed up beside him, dragging a signal booster. We've got chatter. Other colonies. Lyric, Oran's Gate, even Nova 17. People are rising. He nodded. Joss reached them, limping from a blast shrapnel he hadn't dodged fast enough. They're asking for orders. Tell them not to wait, Darius said. Strike while the vigil's still bleeding. Mara paused, searching his face. What about you? I'm going after Shirek. Joss blinked. You're serious? Darius turned, expression unreadable. He left the field. But he's still the one who pulled the trigger on everything. He doesn't get to walk away clean. A stolen dropship streaked into orbit that night. Inside, Darius adjusted the straps of his armored harness. It was older tech, before the Concorde's design, but it fit him like it always had. He checked the targeting drone strapped to his shoulder and loaded 2 extra plasma clips into the belt across his chest. Coordinates locked. Talia's voice came over comms. Concorde's main vessel is cycling down shield rotation every 30 seconds. You've got 1 window to breach. Understood. And Darius? He paused. Yeah? Make it count. The breach was brutal. The dropship clipped the shielding, alarms flaring across the Concorde cruiser. He hit the deck hard, rolled behind a conduit, and opened fire before the first 2 guards could draw a breath. Sparks danced across the hangar floor. No stealth. No more games. Darius moved fast, cutting corridors like a knife through silk. Each turn was mapped in his mind, each checkpoint known from stolen blueprints. He left no survivors. Every shot mattered. As he reached the bridge, a reinforced door sealed in front of him. Voice locked. Concorde only. He planted a sonic bore. Counted down. 3, 2. Boom. The door split in half. Smoke poured in. Shirek stood at the center of the room, arms behind his back. Calm. Waiting. So. You came. Darius raised his pistol. You always hide behind others. Let's see if you bleed. Shirek's claws flicked forward. You mistake discipline for cowardice. No. I just know your kind never fight until the walls fall in. Shirek lunged. Darius ducked low, fired point blank, missed as Shirek twisted and slammed into him. They crashed into a console. Metal groaned. Darius rolled away, landed a blow to Shirek's side. His armor cracked. Shirek retaliated with a vicious swipe, tearing into Darius's shoulder. Blood sprayed. Darius gritted his teeth, dropped low, and drove his blade up into the alien's midsection. Shirek staggered. You don't understand, he hissed. Without fear, you humans fall to chaos. Darius shoved him back. We were forged in it. Another punch. Then a shot to the knee. Shirek collapsed to one leg. Darius stepped forward, pistol aimed at the commander's head. This is for Leia, he said quietly. Shirek didn't beg. He didn't get the chance. The shot echoed across the bridge. Darius walked out alone. No alarms blared now. No resistance. The rest of the crew had fled or surrendered. The myth had arrived in flesh and blood, and none wanted to be the next name on his list. He found the broadcast terminal, patched in the colony network, and stared into the lens. My name is Darius Wren, he said. I was a soldier once. Then a ghost. Then they shot a child. He held up Shirek's Concorde sigil, bloodied and broken. This wasn't justice. It wasn't rebellion. It was memory. Of who we are. Of what happens when you push people too far. You thought humanity forgot how to fight. We didn't. We just waited. He dropped the sigil with a metallic clang. More will come. And if they do, they'll find out the truth. He leaned forward. We're not afraid of you anymore. Aboard the Concorde Tribunal, silence reigned. The council ended the feed. He's just one man, one delegate said. No, replied the chairman. He's what comes after silence. Back on the surface, in towns and farms, people gathered in front of flickering screens, their eyes wide, their hands clenched. The hooded man had walked into orbit and left a warlord dead. And now, across the stars, others like him were rising. He didn't have a banner. He didn't need one. His name was enough.